my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy, sometimes Mouse, and I talk about books and book-related things, and today I am giving you my August wrap-up. August was a pretty solid book up until I got Baldur's Gate 3, a pretty solid month up until I got Baldur's Gate 3, and then I just like stopped using my brain for anything other than that video game. But I did get some decent reading done, not as much as I wanted to. I did read everything I planned to, but I had hoped that I would read a little bit more. But unfortunately that is not what happened. So, again, because of Baldur's Gate 3, it is what it is. So before I get into this, I just want to give a quick reminder. I talked about it in my video last week, but I just want to give another reminder that I'm going to be taking a break from making content either the first week of the month or the second week of the month, or the last week of the month, I mean, just to give myself time to create better quality content for you guys. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share if you do enjoy this video, and then turn notifications on, just because my schedule is changing a little bit, so that way you don't miss anything or wonder, hey, why have you not posted? This is why. So let's go ahead and get into the stats. Just wanted to get that disclaimer out of the way. The total books that I read for August is, also sorry about the cat, the total books that I read for August is 21 books. For pages read, it was 5,362. For hours listened, it was 67 hours and 7 minutes. That is the equivalent of 2 days, 19 hours and 7 minutes. My average rating was a 3.7. My average pages per day was 164.6. My average hours listened per day for those audiobooks was 6 hours and 26 minutes. I reread a total of 2 books, and that would be the 24-hour reading challenge that I've been trying to do for myself at least once a month. That would be last month's for the Last Hours trilogy from Cassandra Clare. For audiences of those books, 14 of them were adult, 6 of them were young adult, and 1 was a children's book. Is middle grade? Definitely not children's. It was a ghost book. It was a ghost book. For the formats of those books, 8 of them were audiobooks, 3 of them were ebooks, and 10 were physical books. I'm still really surprised at how many physical books I'm reading this year. Since I got that library card, it has been nuts. I was just constantly just reading physical books. It's fun though, I'm not mad about it, it's just like nuts. For book lengths of books that have pages, I read 2 books between 201 and 300 pages, 6 books between 301 and 400 pages, 2 books between 401 and 500 pages, 2 books between 501 and 600 pages, and 1 book between 601 and 700 pages. And it's going to be the last little 3 there, that's definitely going to be the Last Hours trilogy. Those books were hefty for no reason. Why were they so long? I read a total of 8 fantasy books, 3 romance books, 1 thriller, 8 horror for some reason. Apparently August was a month for me to be reading horror. And 1 classic book, which was Persuasion by Jane Austen. Did not enjoy it. Will not be returning to Jane Austen more than likely. I learned the hard way that I do not care for 1800s classical literature. Like, I knew that, but now I really know it. I knew it in high school, but I didn't believe it. Now I really know it. For my top books this month, we have If This Book Exists, You're in the Wrong Universe by David Wong or Jason Peregrine. This is the John Dies at the End series. Goodbye. That is from the John Dies at the End series. It is the 4th book. I accidentally read it before the 1st book. My bad. Didn't realize it was a 4-book series when I picked the book up. The book was fun, just didn't realize it. The author does clearly state that you can read them out of order. It doesn't really matter, but yeah, I didn't expect that. Then we have By a Silver Thread by Rachel Aaron. This is the next book in the DFZ collection. There is 2 series already, and that's in that collection that have ended, and this is the next one. I enjoyed this book a lot. It encompassed fairy magic, which I don't think Rachel Aaron has really done yet in the DFZ series, not really anyway. And the way that she tied this in was kind of unique and interesting, and I enjoyed that a lot. I do think that there may have been some liberties taken with the rules of the universe. However, it's been a little while since I've read those books, so I can't say for sure, but it feels like some of the rules got bent a little bit for that universe, and I don't hate that, but I did notice it. But it was one of my favorite books this month, so I can't be that mad about it, right? Then we have Ghost Eaters by Clay... My pets today, man. Then we have Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeo Chapman. This was the book wherein they would take a drug to quote-unquote get haunted by their loved ones, with the tagline, "Wanna get haunted?" The answer is no. That is the most white people nonsense I've ever heard of. But that book was really, really good. It was an interesting way of addressing addiction and the way that addiction works, and I feel like it represented that actually in a really incredible way, while also being very spooky. I did think it dragged on a little bit at the end unnecessarily, and the ending irritated me, but as a whole, the book was really good. If you find... This is not a horror gone contemporary. This is genuinely a horror book. It's fucked up and weird, and I enjoyed it a lot. And then last but not least, we have Mr. Magic by Kiersten White, which honestly I think would be my favorite book that I've read this month entirely. It is about a forgotten children's TV show that nobody can seem to find information on, and I just love things like that. If you love things like that, I highly recommend looking into Welcome Home. I've only watched YouTube videos on it because that's not something that I like. My horror, my ability to consume horror does not allow me to look at alternate ARGs, alternate reality game type things, which Welcome Home is. I can't do it. But Mr. Magic really, really made me think of that, and so I highly recommend it if anybody wants to read that kind of book. I also loved the undertones of religious trauma without it being so outright. It was very much implied, and if you've personally experienced religious trauma, then you would catch it, but if you hadn't, it would just be this very fucked up, weird show about, or book about a show, right? And I enjoyed it a lot. It was really, really good. For the worst book of this month, and normally when I talk about the worst book of the month, I go in on it. This I'm not gonna go in on because I'll explain in a minute. It's gonna be Tell Me I'm Worthless by Alison Rumfitt, and it's one of those books that had trauma for the sake of trauma, almost. That's not the right word. Very similar to Juniper and Thorn in how I feel about it, I mean. Not in content, but in how I feel about it, in which it's just brutal for brutality's sake. There's not really any break or reprieve. It touches on some really hard topics, and I can appreciate that. I just struggled a lot with the framing, or not even the framing. This is very hard to describe. I think that there's a way to have those discussions in which the characters that I inherently would support in life, I don't even know how to word this. This is going to be a nightmare to edit, is me trying to get these thoughts together, but I struggle a lot with horror that has graphic, detailed violence that frames itself as attempted storytelling. I'm fine with body horror. I've been very clear about that, and I enjoy body horror. This is almost like people are horrible inherently, or that horrible things only happen to people with no breaks. It's very hard to find anybody to root for in this book. The descriptors were too wet for me. I don't know how to explain that, but it was too much for me. It was too much for me. And I do not mean that in a, ooh, if you really like really fucked up horror, like this was too much for me, so you should go read it. No, because I a lot of the time on like TikTok or something, I'll see like, oh, this book is so gross and fucked up and you shouldn't even read it. Like, you shouldn't even touch it. It's so hard to read. Like, it's so... I have the tendency to gravitate towards those kinds of books, especially as somebody with aphantasia. I don't mind descriptors of things. I don't mind those things. It's things that feel like trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma with no reprieve whatsoever. That to the point that the plot gets lost in it, where it's hard to follow the plot because I am still mentally processing the horror, and the horror is not inherently the plot. I don't know if any of what I'm saying is making sense. I did not enjoy the book. I really wanted to DNF it. If I had not been listening to it while I was doing other things, I probably would have DNF'd it. I just happened to be preoccupied enough to not just like stop it and DNF it. I don't feel like it was worth the time to listen. And I wish I could take that time back. I would have rather have had complete uncomfortable silence than to have been listening to this book. I also think that there is a way to address the content that this book is attempting to address, and even do it within a horror microscope and a horror perspective that is not what this book did. I don't think that this book did what it was trying to do in a good way. I also, again, do not really like graphic, violent descriptors that pretend to be a part of an important plot line when realistically it feels like violence, like gore porn for the sake of gore porn, and I'm not into that. That's not for me. Especially with the kind of content that's in this book. It made me very uncomfortable, and not like, oh, it's supposed to make you uncomfortable because like it teaches you something. Like, I didn't learn anything from this. I just learned that I didn't like this book and that I want my time back. So that's that's how I feel about that. I'm sorry if those thoughts make no sense. Editing it is going to be a nightmare. I already know. So sorry. But anyway, that is my wrap up for August. Not a crazy long month, not a crazy long amount of books. Very simple this month. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you've read any of these books and you liked them, or if you have any questions about my reading, please don't hesitate to comment down below. I will do my best to get back to you. Just remember what I said at the beginning of the video about my posting schedule, but other than that, I post videos every Tuesdays and Thursdays, almost every single week at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, and so I will see you guys later on this week. And don't forget to take your meds, drink your water, and do something today to take care of yourselves. Okay, thanks, bye!